Paul talks about his hardships in a very poetic way in the first section of chapter 6. And then he starts talking about the promises of God.
Well, first off, this is the only place where they talk about the ministry of reconciliation. And it's just a beautiful way to put the whole gospel. You know, we've been split from Genesis on, and this is what God's been doing the whole time, is trying to reconcile us to himself, but not just to himself. I mean, if he made us for relationship with him, then he made us, all of us, for relationship with each other. I mean, he's just reminding us of what God's promised us. You know, that we shall be his children, and he will be our God, and he will graciously receive you and welcome you and call you his sons and daughters. Okay, so this is 2 Corinthians 6, 14 through 18.
Okay.
Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Do not make mismatched alliances with them, inconsistent with your faith. For what partnership can righteousness have with lawlessness? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and Belial, Satan? Or what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols? For we are the temple of the living God, just as God said, I will dwell among them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. So come out from among unbelievers and be separate, says the Lord. And do not touch what is unclean, and I will graciously receive you and welcome you with favor. And I will be a father to you, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. We're a part of his family. We are his. But when we separate ourselves, when we pour into our relationship with God, there's a deeper relationship that he's telling us about. This is something that we choose to walk into. This is a deeper relationship with God that we can choose to walk into. But we have to separate ourselves from the world. And so I just think that's beautiful. Not just that he's going to be our father in general, but we have this deep connection with him when we decide to stop letting the world taking our eyes off the world and putting them on him and separating ourselves for his word.
When you say that, I picture you saying something like that to teenagers, and since that's who you're called to. Can you give us some tangible examples of what it means to separate from the world so that you can merge with the Father heart of God?
Well, and that's the thing, is you have to be so careful, because I don't want to be legalistic about it. And Paul is speaking from the heart, but when you tell yourself, no, I'm not going to watch those movies or those television shows, because what you put into your mouth, what you put into your mind does affect you. You think it's entertainment, but you are filling your mind with sometimes stuff you shouldn't be filling your mind with. Or when you choose to, I know one of my kids is struggling with a job, but when you choose to really do that job well and give it 100%, even though the people around you are not being supportive, your boss isn't being good, you start to serve God in that and not everybody else. It becomes about your relationship with God.
I love that. I love that example, because you're actually leaning into something in the world, your job, but you're leaning into it in a way where you're separating yourself from, like you said, the attitude or the toxic environment maybe that's in that job.
And I like that you brought that out, Alex. We don't want to. God doesn't tell us to leave the world and become little cloistered communities all by ourselves. We have to separate ourselves while still being in the world. I really want to make it clear how it is separate, but not that we leave. We can't leave Earth, and we can't leave our community. We're not supposed to leave our community, but we are supposed to be set apart. We're supposed to be separate. It should look different.
Some people effectively can get away from the world. They join monasteries, but then they're still stuck with the other monks or the other nuns, and then worst of all, they're stuck with themselves, and we
Oh.
bring the world with us.
Oh, good point. Good point. We're still stuck with ourselves. Absolutely.
And our
Yeah.
attitudes and our offenses and our irritations. And yeah, I find that when I'm door dashing, I get impatient and irritated at people, and I'm thinking, am I even a Christian when I'm door dashing? And I'm wrestling with that right now, which is really the same thing of how to find joy in peace in the presence of God while you're doing whatever.
While you're doing crazy stuff. The funny thing is, the best example we have is Paul. He's always, every time he's suffering, every time he's hurting, he keeps talking about how he finds, and I'm not good at it either. I mean, if you can get to that point, and I'm sure I'm not as deep as, but have you ever felt like that, where no matter what, when you're in the midst of the chaos and you feel like, I am in the midst of it, but I'm connected to him. And so it's okay. We had a big hullabaloo with some people that were upset with us. And, even in the midst of it, I had his peace. And it was like, I love these people. I want them to come back to Vineyard. I want the best for them. But I'm going to do everything I can. But it was so beautiful to not feel like that the weight of it was on my shoulders. God's got this. And if they're supposed to come back, great. And if not, maybe somewhere down the line, but it wasn't my responsibility.
Yeah. You don't feel your world crashing because you're tethered to something stable, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice.